I can't think of any better
Hallo,
news during
Leute?
these terrible times.
Do we know each other?
Actually,
Ich bin
yes.
jetzt.
We met once before at the Rockefeller University in New York.
Dr. Tippett, yes, I remember. I was assisting Professor Carell in his research about coronary bypasses. He had nothing but praise for you.
He was also very confident about your future. And look at you now. Eminent surgeon and blood transfusion specialist.
Ja, ich bin jetzt hier in ein Gespräch verwickelt, gerade aus Versehen. Ja, und herzlich willkommen zu Vampyr. Vampyr. Ja, und die Quatschstunde geht hier weiter. Alter, das ist viel zu verzählen, ne, hier. Ich würde sagen, wir machen den Part ein bisschen länger. 45 Minuten ungefähr. Wie ist die Lage?
What is the Pembroke Hospital situation? And please, speak freely.
This hospital is not exactly the best of London. I'm sure you are used to working in a better environment.
It's more than enough. In any case, the personnel of a hospital are much more important to me than the building.
Don't be misled by appearances, Dr. Reed. This hospital does not lack talented people. It just lacks hope.
What can you tell me about the staff in the hospital?
Some are really good, and others are not so good. But during this troubled period, there is no time for slander. I prefer to focus on the positive character traits.
Tell me more about cherished people, then.
Nurse Brannigan is a pearl. She is the most helpful and dedicated nurse I've ever worked with. A clever and cheerful woman.
You really seem to admire her skills.
I'll go even further. If she was a man, she would be a damn fine practitioner.
Any opinion about the management?
I don't always agree with Dr. Swansea's reserve, but I must admit he does all he can to keep this facility running during this crisis.
Ah, yes, the burden of command. I was fed up with this concept while serving as a medical officer.
Don't get me wrong. Swansea's a good administrator. I just wish he would get out of his office now and again.
Okay. Sind Sie erschöpft?
You're exhausting yourself, Corcoran. Maybe you should think about preserving your strength.
No. We must keep on healing all those poor souls. We are the last rampart before chaos. Once more unto the breach.
In den Kampf?
You've nothing to prove, Dr. Tippett, to anybody. And we all praise your experience. Please, have some rest.
I am perfectly fine, and I am not too old for this job.
So, das war das, was wir gerade hatten. Okay, Hinweise. Okay,
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett.
okay.
Last thing our patients.
So, es sind noch mehr Leute, ne? Hier kann ich hier mal. Oder hatten
Good
wir die
evening,
schon?
Nurse Brannigan.
Good evening, Doctor.
Ach, die hat man doch. Immer. Ah, hier.
Why does Dr. Tippett claim you're the main reason he keeps working, despite his fatigue?
If it wasn't for him, I probably would have left the Pembroke years ago.
Dr. Tippett does not think of you as just a nurse anymore, does he?
If you're suggesting he's not taking my gender into consideration when it comes to medical practice and knowledge, I really hope he doesn't.
Okay.
Goodbye, nurse.
Dann,
Call me if you need assistance.
verabschiede ich mich nur. Und der hat mal also noch gequatscht. Ach so, wir sind jetzt hier draußen. Wir wollten eigentlich schreien, ne? Warte mal, da ist noch was. Mach schon mal. Den haben wir auch schon. Wen haben wir denn hier zum Beispiel?
Good evening, nurse.
Good evening, Doctor.
Pippa.
I don't think we've been introduced yet. My name is Pippa Hawkins.
And I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. Dr. Swansea has recently offered me a position in this hospital.
Well, it's a euphemism that your help will be appreciated, Doctor.
Oh Gott.
How would you describe the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
You must get a hold of yourself, nurse.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. No one has any idea when this epidemic will be over.
Nurse Hawkins, the Spanish flu won't last forever. Even the Black Plague didn't kill everyone.
I wish I could believe you. But what if this epidemic was worse? What if in the end, nobody was spared?
Wir können auch einfach nur hier das eingeben, aber ich weiß nicht.
How long have
Wir
you
werden
been
nichts
a nurse?
verpassen.
Or long enough to see that the epidemic is winning. And no matter how qualified you are, don't tell me you'll change that.
You'd be surprised what dedication can achieve, Nurse Hawkins. In medicine, sometimes we're just a test result away from a miracle.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't want to sound bitter, but I'm just too tired to give a pep talk like Nurse Brannigan.
How is the Pembroke staff coping with the epidemic?
Well, not well. Milton, the ambulance driver, is even more grumpy than usual, especially concerning doctors.
Why is Milton grumpy on a daily basis? Is it just an act?
Milton's not the kind of man who's bothered about a bad reputation, whether he deserved it or not.
Why does Milton dislike doctors?
I don't know. Just ask him. But be warned, Milton is not the chatty type.
Pepper, I know you're very close to Milton Hooks.
Yes, Milton Hooks is my man. If you want to report me for that, just feel free, Doctor.
I have no intention of reporting you, Nurse Hawkins. But are you aware of the risks?
The rules say I won't be allowed to work as a nurse anymore. But here at the Pembroke, we break rules all the time.
Is he worth the risk?
Hey, I'm no perfect woman, and Milton is not the finest bloke. But we do our best to get by. That's all any of us can hope for nowadays.
Okay. Ist noch persönlich. Ah, okay. Hier ist noch nix.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
Daily routine.
Oh Gott. Na komm, jemand mit
Good
ihm.
evening, sir. Can I help you?
Unless you're here to fix my face. No. I don't think you can help me.
I'm Dr. Reed. I've recently taken the position of head surgeon here. War injuries, am I right?
You guessed right, Doctor. German shell took my pretty little mug right off. But they still call me Thomas Elwood.
Hinweis.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
Sieht ja auch krass komisch aus, ne?
Who is treating you? Is someone in particular looking after
Guck
you?
mal, das Shirt geht
Nobody
durch.
since the old and tired
Körper.
doctor spoke to me. Started to think I was forgotten about. Wouldn't blame you.
You don't seem worried by that.
My face hurts so much more when I smile or cry. I've learned it's easier not to speak. But be assured I'm smiling inside.
Can I do anything for your pain?
Nurses gave me a bunch of pills. No effect. Told you. It's like the flames are under my skin, burning away.
Okay. Persönliche.
Where were you stationed, sir? Did you serve for long?
I really don't want to talk about all this shit.
No offense. I was pushing too much. I served in France myself. I just wanted to know what happened to you.
You were an officer, weren't you? Then I doubt we fought the same war, sir. No offense.
Okay. Ja, dann.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
You disgust on every street corner.
Die Kamera.
daily routine.
Das Ohr. Wer ist das?
Good evening, Mr. Hampton.
Alter, wie viel sind denn
How do
hier?
you feel?
Dr. Reed, is it? Oh, Sora, I must apologize for my behavior.
What do you mean?
I was not myself in the factory. Fear and exhaustion made me say awful things to you, I'm afraid.
You remained perfectly nice and
Das war er.
polite. A little delirious, perhaps. But who wouldn't be after enduring an abduction?
Thank you, Doctor. That's a relief. Now all I need to do is rest and return to my flock.
So,
How did you end up in William Bishop's den?
I had received alarming news about his recent behavior. I went to his place and he refused to let me go.
Why did he abduct you?
William was an alcoholic. His addiction suddenly changed to blood. I don't know why. Just like a patient I met here.
weil er Vampyr ist.
This Miss Hawcroft.
You dared to enter this awful place alone. You're a hero, Mr. Hampton. Or a fool.
I'm just a man trying to help his friends, Dr. Reed. William Bishop was a conflicted soul, searching for light.
What is the general situation in the East End docks?
The situation has always been tough, with a lot of tensions between the gangs and the dockers' trade union. The wet boot boys are very nervous since they lost their leader.
Who leads the gang now?
Since Clay Cox went missing, it's his wife Edwina who runs the show, with the assistance of her minion, Booth Digby.
Has the gang been threatening you?
Ah, no. I've had this nickname for so long, you know, the sad saint of the East End. No one dares to bug a saint, not even criminals.
Hört man das gerade?
Do you know
Da wohnt
Tom
nämlich
Watts,
jemand.
the bartender
Ich
from
weiß
the
gar nicht, ob das
Turtle?
unter mir ist
I
oder...
met him before I found you in the canning factory.
Tom?
Vom Nachbarn.
Yes, of course. Always the helping hand, good old Tom. Without men like him, corruption and despair would have wiped out the East End long ago.
People are still in despair.
How could it be otherwise? The authorities have left us all to rot in this contagious nightmare. No drugs, no advice, nothing. It's a damn shame.
Who should I avoid in this part of town, then? Any particularly evil figures?
Not really. Most men and women are just doing their best. And it's not my habit to speak ill of people I know, Doctor.
Oh Gott. Oh Gott.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks. And I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really. But I recognize Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke? Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
How do you feel, Mr. Hampton? Medically speaking, I mean.
I feel exhausted. Beyond exhaustion, actually. William drank so much of my blood in his madness. I feel empty.
You're in good hands here. Dr. Swansea is well versed in blood transfusion, and I'm sure he'll take the best care of you.
Thank you, sir. I believe all I need is rest. And then I can go back to the people who need me.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later.
Eieiei, wie viel Text denn hier in dem Spiel ist.
I wonder why the Goswicks came here in the first place.
It's here again.
Was ist das denn?
Good
Junge,
evening.
Junge, die nächste.
I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me, mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon.
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
Komplett durch.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of pustulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want.
Oh
As a
God.
woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me. For I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal. But do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Es wird sich untersuchen. Eine neue Bürgeruntersuchung ist verfügbar. Was? Ich finde heraus, wer Thelma ausspioniert. Okay.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were
Naja,
before
du bist die.
becoming a vampire.
No, such a
Die
long
nicht
time
Vampir
ago,
ist,
I
sondern
don't
wir.
remember. Centuries of
Jetzt hätte ich's
unholy
ja, glaub ich,
life can have
gemerkt.
strange effects on one's minds, you see?
Weißt du, was ich meine?
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
Die hat einen an der Meise, ne? Okay. Oh Gott, die.
Good evening, Doctor. I believe
Noch
we're
einer.
going to be
Ey,
working.
wie soll er hier?
To read. Dr. Swansea
Entwickler.
informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd
Entwickler.
have such good fortune. Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
I based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me, but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research, yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time.
Persönliche Fragen. Oh, können was machen.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior. A man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
Okay.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Wen haben wir dahinter?
What can I do for you, Doctor?
Dorothy. Also, die hat man schon.
Thank you, Nurse Crane.
Okay.
How long must I wait, damn it? Blaming me will not further your agenda, sir. How long's it going to take to fix me properly? A month?
Das ist
A
ja
year?
beschrieben.
You have the right to disapprove of our methods, and you will kindly apologize when you're feeling better.
Wer ist das denn?
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. May I help you?
I don't know if a third opinion is needed. Your colleagues are already arguing about my condition.
I see. Would you mind telling me more about your situation?
I'm Harvey Fiddick. All I want is to get me bloody arm fixed properly.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Fiddick.
I'm just a regular guy waiting to get his arm fixed, so I can return to work and to my family.
I was more curious about what you were doing before being hospitalized.
I'm a carpenter, and a good one too. But that means I need both arms to feed my family, Dr. Reed.
Tell me about the doctors who are arguing about your case.
Strickland and Ackroyd. They both want the best for me, but there's a lot of pride there. Doctors are no different from carpenters, it seems.
What do you mean?
I often had professional arguments with rivals on a building site. Difference is I disagreed about wooden nails, not flesh and bones.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable, and your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies.
Okay. Oh.
Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about
Ja,
it?
det är
My
laut, aber...
wife died because of me, and now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick. Unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself. But I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
Okay. Ah, warte, hier ist noch was.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army. Building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Ah, okay.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
My sweet girl. Reads me like a book. I never could keep anything from her.
So ist nicht. Was ist das denn?
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed? Yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swansey's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansey has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that,
Viele
I'm
Ärzte
sure.
sich jetzt angetrommelt haben,
But
ne?
I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
There is no need for such animosity between us. Don't you think the epidemic is already enough to deal with?
That is one point we could agree on. And that is precisely why I want to be sure that you will be of help to this hospital, instead of a burden.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansey, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor. Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
Tell me, Waverly, What do you think of Dr. Strickland's enthusiasm for his experimental research?
Strickland is playing with his patients' lives for pride and glory. Now that, sir, is unethical.
Are you thinking about something in particular?
Harvey Fiddick needs delicate surgery. I believe we should stick to the usual procedure, but my young colleague obviously disagrees.
Why do you wish to lead this surgery?
I strongly believe that Mr. Fiddick should not be butchered to test an unproven procedure.
If you are going to lead this surgery, I'm trusting you to assume the consequences of your actions, whatever the result.
I'm not the kind of man who runs away from his responsibilities, Dr. Reed. There is no need for you to be looking over my shoulder.
And are you not afraid that your rivalry with Strickland may be blinding you?
Rivalry? I guess you could call it that. But I will never be childish enough to let my personal feelings affect my judgment.
Ach du Scheiße.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
This is ridiculous. My blood transfusion technique saved many lives, and you know it.
You see? That is exactly what I hate about people like you. You avoid this kind of accusation instead of facing reality.
It seems you have bad memories of
Der
your
ist aber
military
unsympathisch.
service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd. Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Ein sympathischer Typ, ey. Ich mag den nicht. Wo müssen wir denn? Ach, wir müssen hoch, ne? Ich bin genau runter. Wer ist das? Warte mal. Ach du Scheiße. Wie viele sind denn hier?
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed.
Uiuiui.
Can I help at all?
No,
Really? Why are you here then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
Ja, okay, dann.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'll let you get some rest then.
I'm alright.
But in the circumstances,
Don't waste your
I'm
time
willing
with
to
me.
give you the benefit of the doubt.
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
May I ask if you have an occupation,
wissen.
Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice.
considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a...
Sie haben ihnen Geld für ein Bett abgenommen, ich verstehe.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Persönliche Fragen noch? Ah ne, haben wir nix.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
Das ist noch ein großes Fragezeichen.
Good evening,
Ich kann
Mr.
ja noch mal mit
Goswick.
ihm nochmal reden.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Ich weiß gar nicht.
How painful?
So pain.
I'm sure you...
Not really.
I see.
Oh, das hatten wir ja schon.
Then maybe
Noch
it's
nicht.
not just your throat that hurts, Mr. Goswick. Perhaps your sore throat is just the consequence of something more hurtful.
Yes, maybe. But I don't want to talk or even write about it now.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
It's not me you have to convince, Dr. Reed. It's my...
Persönliche Fragen.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
Okay, dann halt nicht.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
I'm alright. Don't waste your time with me.
Wir könnten vielleicht mit ihr nochmal. Ich habe jetzt einen Hinweis.
Good evening.
Nee. Hier schon mal nicht. Hier auch nicht, okay.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
Aber schon da. Tschüss. Junge, ey, viele Leute es hier gibt. Mit einem müssen wir reden. Oh nein. Ich würde sagen, wir gehen mal hoch, oder? Oder haben wir hier noch? Wen haben wir denn hier? Das ist,
Good evening, Dr. Strickland. And good evening to you, Dr. Reed. Can I be of any help?
Ah, wir haben hier noch was.
What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so...
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
Hier ist auch? Nee, hier ist nix.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Kommen ja durcheinander mit den ganzen Leuten.
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening.
Hier noch was? Ah, guck mal.
Milton cheats patients out of their money at this hospital, Pippa. Are you his accomplice?
Yes, I am.
Is this your definition
Guck mal,
of
der
being
Spiegelbild.
useful? By abusing the sick and poor?
No. It is my definition of getting out of this useless life once and for all.
Sieht aus, als ob sie in den Spiegel reinguckt.
Why do you do it?
Why not? Most of the sick who paid for a bed are already dead, or will be soon. Don't you see the futility of all this?
How can you be affected by the misery around you, and be so heartless at the same time? Which is the real you, Nurse Hawkins?
I could ask you the same question, Dr. Reed. Are you more real when you lie to a dying patient, or when you grant him useless medication?
Whose idea was it?
What difference does it make? We did it together, and I'm guilty as charged.
Answer my question.
It was my idea first, even though Milton would say it was his, to protect me.
Die ist auch unsympathisch.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
I'm quite busy right now, Dr. Reed.
Alright. Warte mal. Was ist denn das noch weiß?
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Haben wir hier noch was?
Good evening.
Nö. Oh, hier ist noch was. Kommen wir mal hier rein. Aha. Hier ist noch eine Mülltonne. Wieder Müll durchsuchen. Yeah, yeah. Geht die Türen immer zu. Ist ja genauso wie bei Ghost of Tsushima. Diese komischen Türen, die selber von ihr zugehen.
It's locked, all right.
Aber da daneben aber nicht. Langer Brief. Okay, mal gucken. Alter Schwede, ist lang. Pieper, okay. Piepaninchen. Das ist ein Buch. Kann man aber nicht nehmen. Okay, dann gehen wir mal hoch. Ui, Willy, ist alles zu. Hier ist Oha. Komm, jetzt eine Säge haben wir jetzt. Kann man auch durchlesen. Mal. Ach, zu ihm. Alter, wir haben jetzt alle. Ne, 2 Personen haben wir noch offen. Alter Schwede. Wir gucken mal, was wir an Zettel haben. Hier. Das kann ich aber nie schon gelesen.
So, Mr. Hooks and Nurse Hawkins are an item. Those two have hidden their affections well.
Oh. Da müssen wir rein. Warte mal. Nichts.
This must be the place. It's definitely away from prying eyes. Relegated to the shadows. A kingdom of my own. At least I won't be sleeping in a coffin.
Unterschlupf gefunden. Aha. Wir sollen irgendwas in der Werkbank machen.
The flower's dying. It needs water.
Tja, hast du recht. Müssen wir jetzt gießen? Hier ist noch ein Brief. Wie wir manches nicht öffnen wollen, ne? Was haben wir denn hier? Analysen. Analysieren. Analysieren. Und jetzt haben wir was? Welche Reagenz? Serum.
William Bishop's blood is much more unstable than human blood and shows extensive mutation. But this is not what happened to me. I must keep on searching. The sun is about to rise. I can feel it. I'll continue tomorrow night. I have so much time now.
Kann man irgendwas verbessern? Mist. Da fehlen so kleine Teile, ne? Ganz kleinere Teile. Ich finde das Geräusch so geil. Dann schlafen wir mal, ne? Ah ja, stimmt. Wir können ja hier noch viel... Ah, kann man nicht. Wir können gar nichts machen. Das geht. Ich will ja die Klauen mal machen. Nice. Sprung. Sie führt einen übernatürlichen Sprung. Richtung eines Caesars versucht Schaden bei Erlangen. Das ist gar nicht mal so schlecht. Vielleicht ein Base mal erweitern. Wir brauchen... Ah, verdammt. Was mit 200 irgendwie? Um die 300, 200, 300, 300. Man sieht das wahrscheinlich hier, ja. Ich Idiot. Was ist das denn hier? Das steht aber nicht da, ne? Das ist sehr merkwürdig. Okay, aber bestätigen wir. Die folgende Nacht.
If I'm to stay here until my research is complete, I'd better learn to hide my true nature from the mortals. But what about my thirst for blood? Yes, Nurse Crane? How can I help you?
I'm so sorry. I know Dr. Swansea wanted you to rest, but we have somewhat of a crisis.
A crisis, you say?
Our supply of antiseptics is nearly depleted. I was hoping there was another box up here, but...
What type of hospital are you running? No
Hä?
antiseptics?
Das ist ganz anderes
You
da.
have been away too long, Doctor. With the war and now this epidemic,
ja.
supplies have been running scarce
Sie
for
haben hier
months now.
keine Dings.
I may have a solution. In France, during the war, drugs shortage was a daily problem, and we had to use our wits to overcome the shortages.
However do you mean?
If combined correctly, certain household chemical products can be used in a pinch instead. Now, where's the hospital storeroom?
The storeroom? Fat chance. This is the Pembroke, and space is luxury we don't have. Everything used to be stored in the old morgue.
Perhaps I should look there first. Where is this morgue?
It's the large building behind the hospital. You'll need to go in the back door because it's been sealed off for sanitary reasons. Take this key. It opens a small back entrance at the end of a narrow street.
The abandoned morgue behind the hospital. A small door at the end of a narrow street.
Aufzuweichen,
On my way then. Thank you, nurse.
Sonst.
Yes,
Exactly how bad is the supply situation here at Pembroke?
It really depends. Dr. Swansea deftly works his...
Ich überspringe das einfach alles mal.
Please,
It's the large...
Why?
At the
You're...
London...
That's all for...
Ich habe keinen Bock mehr auf Gesprächen. Weil wir eigentlich noch mit den anderen sprechen müssen. Ich komme auch durcheinander mit den ganzen Leuten, weißt du? Immer noch nicht. Mal lieber Scholli, was machen Sie den ganzen Tag da? Wichsen wahrscheinlich. Toll, hier kann man hoch, aber hier kann man nicht rein. Leck mir am Arsch. Dieses Spiel. Mit ihm wollte ich doch sprechen, ne?
Good evening, Mr. Elwood.
Evening, Dr. Reed.
Why do you feel responsible for the injury, Thomas? What really happened?
I wasn't disfigured by any German shells. It happened during my leave. It was an accident.
Wie der aussieht. Schon heftig.
Tell me what really happened then.
I went with a whore in Rouen. Dead drunk I was. The hotel was a shithole. There was a fire that night.
Did you start the fire? Were you trying to avoid going back to the front? That's not uncommon, you know.
No. It's just that I was asleep when the flames reached the room. The girl was long gone. Bitch never woke me up. Left me to burn.
Why lie about it?
Come on. It's one thing to come back disfigured by the Germans. And it's another to get injured
Nix
in an
gegen
accident
Deutsche, ja?
that could have happened to anybody.
Reconstructive surgery has been very successful for some soldiers.
I don't want to wear a bloody mask for the rest of my life. I'd rather stay here and just be forgotten.
Ja, das muss er halt in Corona-Zeit, meine Fresse. Hier ist auch noch was, oh Gott.
How close are you to Miss Horcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless, I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. While I'm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. Living proof that there's hope for me.
How close are you to Miss
Wait,
schon, ne?
Aren't you?
She's quite...
So do you let her
Oder?
bite you? You know that's not sanitary.
Ja,
And why
das ist
not?
schon.
She's only supping a few drops of my blood.
Jetzt käme ja auch dieses
And the
Zeichen,
pain,
dieses Bum, Bum.
it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patients.
Then it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the
Sie ist
Cotard
gestört.
syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
So. Ja, ich gehe da mal, ne? Junge, 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 wie viele Gespräche hier. Mal mit ihm, was mach ich? Mit ihm gucke ich nochmal, aber dann...
Hello again.
Ja, hier gibt's nichts mehr.
Goodbye, Mister.
Hier gibt's nichts mehr.
Daily routine.
Selbstgespräche führen. Wir haben ja, warte mal. Die Karte zeigt uns ja hier. Da müssen wir hin. Schön markieren, hallo? Was ist denn jetzt? Fatal Error. No. Ja, wie es im nächsten Part weitergeht, werden wir dann sehen. Tschüss, toll. Fatal Error. Ja, wunderbar.